So the other day I watched American Fiction, which came out last year. This stars Jeffrey Wright, and it's about an author who is trying to get a book published, um, but publishers are basically saying that it's not "quote unquote" black enough because Jeffrey Wright's a black character, and there's other characters in this movie who are making these uh, absurdly caricatures. Um, I believe the term that they use for it is called black exploitation. Basically, like emphasizing what people's portrayal of black culture is, as far as like, um, like a lot of like soul food, colorful language, uh, gang violence, family being absent, things of the sort. Um, I will say that like I really like this movie. It's a lot wittier than I first thought it was going to be when I first heard about this movie, and like I first started like hearing people talk about this movie. I think Jeffrey Wright's phenomenal in it. I wholly believe that he deserves this Oscar nomination that he got. Um, I've thought he's fantastic since like I watched him in Westworld, which I believe is the first thing I saw him in. Doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before, And then of course he was cast as Jim Gordon in the Batman like afterwards, and a lot of backlash for that. I personally love the choice because I'm just like he fits and everything. Like he's not, he's not Gary Oldman like Commissioner Jim Gordon, but he's an updated version of Jim Gordon. Just like Robert Pattinson's updated version of Batman. But anyways, side note, obviously, a lot of this movie can kind of be explained in a conversation that he has with I can't think of her name in the movie, but and I'm probably mispronouncing like her real life her name. But it's Issa Rae, who's also very good in this movie. But they're basically having a conversation because Issa Rae wrote a book that's very black exploitative, and Jeffrey Wright is basically like confronting her about it, and she's just like like this is like what the people want. Is it not our job to as authors to write what the what the people want, to make ourselves marketable and supply and demand and all this stuff. There's also a conversation a lot earlier in the movie where Jeffrey Wright's character is a teacher, and he's talking about this book that uses like the N word, in this college age white woman is being upset that the word is on the marker board, on the and Jeffrey Wright's character's like, I got over it, you can too. And between those two conversations, I think that's basically like everything that this movie's like the conversation this movie's having. I will say that I think this movie falls apart pretty hard at the ending. It's like the only part of the movie I really did not like at all. I think it also goes like a little too heavy-handed towards the end, about this whole conversation of is it insulting to these artists to write these stories, or is it a positive thing because if they weren't writing these stories, then they wouldn't be getting any work, or their work wouldn't be like shown or talked about. There's also like some pacing issues that happen roughly towards like the end of the second act. I think I can forgive those though personally. Just like I said, like this, the dialogue is very witty. Like the opening monologue had me laughing out loud, which is very, very rare. Like when I'm watching a movie by myself, like a lot of people when they laugh at movies, it's like it's a social thing. You know, they're laughing because it's expected of them, and other people are laughing, so it's causes more laughter. But like when you're like at home, like watching a movie by yourself, you're a lot less likely to laugh like out loud. Um, the last thing I think that made me like laugh that hard was Bottoms. A few different scenes in that, but which is a straight up comedy. You know, that's not social commentary like at all. I mean, to an extent it is, but like not like this movie is about social issues. Um, I think it's basically everything I want to talk about like on this movie. Uh, I watched this movie quite a while ago. It's just I've gotten busy like with like a lot of different things going on in my life. So um, unfortunately, it's the last movie I watched since recording this review, and that was about a week ago now at this point. I'll be watching Zone of Interest pretty soon here. That Nyan and Rustin and Poor Things, I believe, are the last of my Oscar pre-watch things, and I'll be making a movie about the Oscars or a YouTube clip about the Oscars as well. Um, Anyways, I'd rate this movie probably like a 3.5 out of 5. Um, 3.5, 4 star out of 5, somewhere in there. I'm not exactly sure. I do think there's a conversation that could be had whether this is a blaxploitative movie or if it's just a commentary on blaxploitative movies. Because it's definitely not like a traditional blaxploitative movie, like something like uh, you know, Black Dynamite is like the most recent one I can think of that I've seen. But at the same time, like, you know, it is doing the same tropes of having certain characters act in a way that like I don't think they typically would act like in real life, just for the sake of you know, quote unquote, making them more black. But again, like that's like what they're talking about, like with the book and everything. Um, I don't know. A lot of that, like that conversation's not like really for me to have. You know, like it feels weird to say, but you know, check my white male privilege. You know, all that stuff. Like I'm not like I don't know. Like I'm not like I don't like. I'm not sure like how to get into this, but like I don't consume like a lot of like typical black culture, you know, like I don't listen to like really any rap music like at all. I used to like listen to like a lot of like D12, Eminem, and Obi Trice and Ludacris and you know like all that stuff like when I was in high school. But I've kind of like moved out of it and like you know listen like a lot more like EDM music, uh, like traditional like show tunes like musicals, classical and more you know heavy metal, more hardcore, metalcore, like that type of stuff. Um, and same thing like along the lines of like of TV shows like you know I never even watched like The Wire, which is like of what I have seen of The Wire, it's very similar to like what they're talking about as far as like you know these overly emphasized gang violence and you know like using like a lot of colorful language and like absent family members and stuff like that. Like it almost like the scene that Jeffrey Wright's character writes is very reminiscent of The Wire. So that's the first thing that popped in my head. And again, I haven't seen like The Wire like completely, but like just of things I've seen on the Wire. I think this like kind of like happens like in like a lot of like different cultures too, because like you know I watched Sopranos growing up, and a lot of the talk about Sopranos was about like you know is this portrayal of Italian Americans you know racist because you know not all Italian Americans are part of the mafia. Like it's even nowadays, like you say, like, you know, Irish Catholic or Italian Catholic, like a lot of people, their first instincts are like either like the Irish mob or like the Italian mafia, you know, or like, you know, even, um, you know, sometimes like even like Russian people, they get assumed to be like from the Russian people with tattoos specifically, you know, they get assumed to be like part of like the Bordi um, plus like you know, I grew up in the tri-cities of Michigan, and there was Asian gang culture to an extent. People kept saying they're Yakuza, and like I don't know if they were or not, but that's just what people said. So like I think, you know, all that stuff can be, you know, applied to like any different like race, like at the same time. This is like more so talking about people, you know, like leaning in for that, into that persona for publicity's sake. You know, me as like a truck driver, that'd be like me, you know, acting like, you know, like Larry the Cable Guy, because that's the quote unquote stereotypical truck driver, even though I've met truck drivers like that, but it's definitely like the minority of truck drivers, you know. So it's a lot of like commentary about like all those things, and like I said, I really wish this like would have stuck the ending better, because it kind of leads to a place, and I don't think it's like a good resolution of it, a satisfying resolution of it. It's almost like a cop-out ending in my opinion. But I don't think like the story it was like trying to tell was like ever the point. It was more so like the message they're trying to talk about. Anyways, I recommend this movie, basically to anyone. I think it's like, you know, there's gonna be two sides of it. Like people who, you know, I don't see myself like as a person that's like racist by any means, and I enjoyed it because it's poking at fun of a certain type of person, and then like the people who are like, you know, racist, like they need to see it because maybe they'll open up their eyes and like, you know, maybe stop their like racism like a little bit. It's also like it's talking like a little bit about cancel culture, and it's weird because I think this is like making a better point about cancel culture than like something like Dream Scenario, and like I don't think it's like the main purpose of this movie, but like it's definitely like there. But it's just like it's like that scene that I was talking about earlier with the college girl. Like she's getting offended by something, like for the sake of like being offended, like when the person who would like has the right to be offended by that, like is not offended and saying it's like all right. Like she's kind of like overstepping like her boundaries and like making a deal about something that's like isn't like really a deal. Like she's like trying like I don't know how to describe it, but she's like trying to be like too forward thinking, like in a place that doesn't necessarily like need that far as a forward thinking. Like yes, the N word is a very, very bad word, and like, you know, certain demographics, like myself included, like, you know, should never say that word, but that doesn't mean that word never existed like in the past, and like it doesn't erase like that word in general. The best way I can think about it is like if you ever like watch like Looney Tunes, like on like Cartoon Network or whatever, certain episodes, namely like the Black Dixie episodes they call them, they put this warning up there before each segment. So like after each commercial break they'll put it back up there, and at the beginning of the show they'll put it up there. But you know, basically saying that like, you know, like this was a product of its times. You know, we don't see this way anymore, and like we understand like how insensitive and discriminatory it could be to portray these things now, but like we don't want to erase history basically. anyways, I got like a little philosophical here, and hopefully, all my thoughts came out like how I meant them to come out, because I know like this is kind of a touchy subject and all this stuff. I probably should put the caveat that, you know, I do mean well. Everything, like love one another. Like it doesn't matter who they are. That extends past race, religion, sexuality, gender, like all that stuff. Just love people. The opinions expressed in this review and like all my reviews are my own, and they are a product of who I am at this moment of my life. And if something I say now or in the past does not mean that like that's who I am like whenever you're watching this video, or whenever this video gets brought up in the future, if it ever does get brought up in the future. Because people grow, that's what we're supposed to be as humans. We're supposed to grow and be better and do better and learn from experiences, hopefully not only our own but from other people's experiences, and just be better. Anyways, got a little deep there, but yeah, like I said, 3.5, 4 stars out of 5, somewhere around there. I recommend this movie basically anyone. Jeffrey Wright's performance is phenomenal. Smart dialogue. Anyways, bye.